If you've been using Play by JellyNote, then you might have noticed that there are a bunch of buttons at the bottom of the practice window. Well, today I'm going to go through and show you how to use each button so that you could be sure that you're using Play to its full potential.
Right now, we're looking at the practice window for Spring from the Four Seasons. Now, I happen to be looking at the first violin part, but these buttons are going to work the same regardless of what part that you're looking at. So let's start off with this big green button right here. This one is pretty self-explanatory. If you press it, you're going to hear a MIDI recording of the notes that are on the page and a metronome to go with it. Let's hear how that sounds. To the left of it here, this button is pretty helpful. It takes you back to the beginning of the page. And this one right here deals with the speed of the metronome. So if you want a real challenge, you could speed it way up. Or if you want to practice it a little under tempo, you could take it down. Let's hear how it sounds at a slightly slower tempo than before. This button right here to the right-hand side of the metronome speed deals with notes and tablature. This isn't one that I usually use, so this button isn't super useful to me, but it might be useful to other people, and it is there. Now, this one right here is the metronome setting button. You can turn the metronome on or off. You could change the volume of the metronome, and depending on the piece that you're playing, you could change it from a regular metronome to more of a swing or a shuffle metronome. Now, I like my metronome to be up pretty high, so let's turn the volume up. And let's also check out this button right here. This one is really, really useful because it activates a countdown before the music actually starts to play. We don't need it as much in this one because you could see we have a lot of rests at the start here. But, of course, not every piece of music starts out with a bunch of rests. So, we'll go in here and we'll turn on the countdown, and we can change the number of beats to be quite long. I think we're perfectly fine with just 4 beats. And let's hear how it sounds with a slightly louder metronome and with a countdown. This button right here, to the right of the countdown button, is the loop button, which is really, really helpful in practice. This is great for when you have a tricky spot that you want to hear or to play over and over. So what you do is you go into your music and you highlight the measures that you want, and then you tap on the loop button. And that means that you're going to hear those notes over and over. Let's take off the countdown and hear what that loop sounds like. Endless Vivaldi. Now let's look at this very last button here. This one deals with the MIDI that we're hearing. You could see that there's 3 different buttons up here. It starts off with the solo button, that's the default, and that means that you're only hearing your own solo part. If you go to the band button here, that means that you're going to hear every part but the solo part, and you have the option to, of course, adjust those volumes if there's some parts that you want to hear more than others. And if you go to the custom option, you're able to hear all of the parts. Let's turn this part back up, and let's see how it sounds with the whole band in there without this loop, and back to our normal tempo. And those are all of the buttons available to us.
I hope that this tutorial was useful for you and you feel like you understand those buttons a little bit better. So get to it and happy playing!